I keep hearing that RFK Jr.'s independent run is bad for Trump. The argument is because he's anti-establishment, it's going to result in the anti-establishment vote, people like me, splitting and voting RFK. There was a poll showing that favorability among Trump voters, RFK's, was good, was high, more so than Democrats. But this does not mean anti-establishment individuals or Trump supporters will ditch Trump. Quite the opposite. Now we have the story, actually. RFK Jr. comes out in favor of reparations, carving out lane to Biden's left. So about that. When RFK Jr. announced he was running, what did he say? He was talking about Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. And I'm like, I don't see how any Trump supporter or anti-woke independent is going to vote for this. It's going to be Democrats who don't like Joe Biden, think he's too old and incompetent, who are going to vote for the likes of RFK Jr. And now that he's coming out for reparations, you better believe it. But they'll keep running that story claiming that it's hurting Trump. Fine. Well, here's the story from the New York Post. RFK Jr. supports issuing reparations to the black community, making him the most prominent 2024 candidate to favor the controversial policy meant to atone for slavery and legal segregation. President Biden has largely been silent on the issue, leading to frustration among the far left. Kennedy, who ditched the Democratic primary challenge to Biden earlier this month, has spoken out in favor of issuing federal dollars to rebuild black infrastructure, like banks and businesses, and as well as direct redress payments or tax credits, rather than no strings cash giveaways. Certainly it makes more sense, in my opinion. Communities that were specifically targeted for destruction need to be specifically targeted for repair, said his campaign website. During Jim Crow, black banks, businesses, hospitals, schools, and farms were targeted for destruction. Racists knew that without these, the black community had no chance of building wealth. We must set federal dollars aside to rebuild black infrastructure. Interesting. These programs complement direct redress payments or tax dollars to the descendants of the victims of Jim Crow and other victims of persecution. RFK Jr. will find ways to offer this redress that are legal, fair, and win the approval of Americans of all races. Kennedy has also said he supports establishing development projects like the Bed-Stuy Restoration Corporation, which his father helped found in 1967, along with then Mayor John Lindsay and then Senator Jacob Javits. Those actions are less likely to contribute to polarization between blacks and whites because it benefits everybody. Everybody, even the people who are Trumpers. Everybody wants businesses to work with and flourish. Businesses to work and to flourish. Kennedy Jr. told YouTuber Matt Hoffa in a July interview. Now, look, by all means, RFK Jr. is allowed to believe whatever he wants to believe. But the idea that this pulls from Trump is bonkers to me, okay? Trump supporters ain't going to be joining on the woke bandwagon. Just not going to happen. Look at this one from the New Republic. RFK Jr. is very bad news for Trump's election chances, new poll says. In what reality is a leftist Democrat beating Donald Trump? I just think it's absolutely remarkable. It's like, dude, I honestly think a Trump supporter is more likely to vote for Joe Biden than a far leftist. It's just, look, you get Joe Biden, corporate neolib, and then you get some communist, Trump supporters more likely to vote for Biden. Now, RFK Jr., a lot of Trump supporters like him for his stance on the COVID vaccine. He opposed mandates and lockdowns. It's very, very strongly worded statements. They like that. But he's woke. What are you going to do? Donald Trump will surely, in some capacity, come around. But why would they vote for RFK Jr. when they could vote any other third party or libertarian instead? Listen, why would RFK Jr. take from Trump when the Libertarian Party already exists, right? I love this argument, by the way. I just got to tell all these Trump supporters and conservatives, guys, knock it off. When they say things like, if Libertarians just voted for Trump, then Trump would have won. I love that premise. As if the libertarians like Trump. Like, dude, listen. There is no world where libertarian voters are like, I should have just voted Trump. They don't like him. That's the point. That's why they voted libertarian. That nobody's owed a vote. But it's funny to me that there are people who think libertarian voters are like Trump supporters or like could be. Dude, libertarians rag on Trump all the time. They voted like you don't got those votes, man. But here's my point. The libertarians are already the third party. They're already the independent run, basically, right? If you get a libertarian, they're going to come out and they're going to say no mandates, no lockdowns, no vaccine mandates, etc. That sentiment already exists. You don't need RFK to fill it. And then if you got someone who was a Trump supporter who said, look at Luke Rudkowski, he's like, Trump will not accept responsibility over the mandates and the vaccine stuff. Fine. But Luke's certainly more likely to vote for the Libertarian Mises Caucus candidate than RFK Jr. Now, we've talked about a potential Trump RFK ticket because that might be like a unity ticket that could actually work. I still don't see that as even being possible. I mean, especially obviously RFK Jr. is running as an independent, but also because they're ideologically opposed. Here's the New Republic leftist website. They say, Republican fears around RF Kennedy's recent party pivot appear to be coming true. In a potential three-way election, RFK's influence over independents would give Joe Biden a 7 percentage point advantage over Trump, according to a new poll by NPR, PBS NewsHour, and Marist. So you're telling me that among independent voters, they would vote for Trump were it not for RFK Jr. What policies are shared by these two men? No, I mean that seriously. Donald Trump screams and raves about the vaccine success. RFK Jr. opposes the vaccines. Donald Trump, anti-woke. RFK Jr. woke. What is it? Well, tell me what it is. These independents, on what issue would choose Trump over RFK or RFK over Trump? The argument is, or over Biden, right? I suppose you can make the argument that Biden is such a terrible candidate that they would vote for anything, even Donald Trump, over Joe Biden. Okay, I guess, but I don't see that being enough. I think that is silly and absurd. But we also have this one from the Huffington Post. I love it. RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is destroying Donald Trump's election chances, poll says. Look, there have been several polls showing it go back and forth, right? So it could be. Who knows? They say third-party candidate RFK is on track to push Joe Biden to an easy victory over Trump, according to a new poll. Since Kennedy announced he was leaving earlier this month, blah, 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 they cite the same poll. They say if the election were held today, Biden would snag 44% of the vote to Trump's 37%, followed by Kennedy's 16%, with 3% undecided. They're claiming Kennedy's going to get 16%. 16 in the general. I just got to tell you right now, that's insane, okay? Dude's polling around 14 to 15 among Democrats, which means he's going to be scoring maybe 5, 6, 7% in a general if he does. And why would Trump voters vote for RFK Jr.? Now, maybe single issue voters that only care about vax mandates, possibility. But you're telling me that those people would vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden? The argument is that Trump and Biden were both in favor of the lockdowns. In fact, Trump started it. So that doesn't make any sense. What other issue does RFK Jr. have that someone would vote for Trump over if RFK wasn't around? RFK Jr. woke, Trump not woke. So with no RFK Jr., you're saying these people who are woke are going to be like, I guess I'll vote for Trump over Biden. That makes no sense. War? Maybe. Donald Trump being no new wars, they'd go for RFK Jr. I just don't see it. Plus, RFK Jr. has been in favor of, Green New Deal type policies and gun control. This is the weirdest thing to me. But maybe it's just propaganda. They are desperately trying to get this narrative out there. For some reason, don't ask me, I honestly just don't. I don't get it. Kennedy, whose anti-vaccine views have appealed to some conservatives, is simply siphoning off more votes from Trump than Biden. I don't see how. With the political sign on the ballot, Biden loses 5 points. Trump loses 10 among Republicans. How? I love it, man. I love it. Kennedy, who's gotten significant airtime on Fox News and other conservative outlets, has been denounced by his own family. Although it's always tricky to assess the impact of a third-party candidate, right now, Kennedy alters the equation in Biden's favor. Lee M. Miringoff, director of the Marist College Institute of Public Opinion, said, what this does speak to, however, is that 1 in 6 voters are looking for another option, especially independents. It may be something basic that people hate Trump and Biden, and they're just voting for RFK because he's a Kennedy. That's a fair point. But what I've heard from many people of liberal families is that many of these older Democrats love the Kennedys. And that's a Democrat poll. Now, if it's true that a lot of ex-Democrats join the Republican Party, they may also want to vote for a Kennedy. That I could see the argument for. But ultimately, in the end, it seems to me that the facts favor RFK pulling from Biden, not Trump. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.